That's a bullcrap take. How did you just say it doesn't matter?
We're talking about a guy who went in. The Detroit Pistons are trading Troy Spencer to the Chicago Bulls.
Yeah. Welcome back, everyone, to State of the League. Great to be back here in Season 4. Mick, let's cut right to the chase. We're getting some, unfortunately, breaking news right now. David Booz, he's joining us right now. David, how are you doing?
Hey, guys, how's it going? I'm doing good. How you guys doing today?
Yeah, we've seen better days, definitely, especially as fans of the PBL League, as people who follow the league. But, David, let's just cut right to the chase. Let's get into that breaking news. Very unfortunate. Tell us a little bit about it.
Yeah, unfortunately, Colin Spencer is likely to be out for this entire season with a back injury. He has 2 herniated discs, which may require surgery. He's been in and out of the doctor's office, not 100% confirmed that he's out for the season or whether he'll need surgery, but it's not looking too bright for the young guy. He's been in the finals each of the first 3 seasons, so if he was unable to play this season, this would be the first finals we would ever see without Colin Spencer in it. He's also a 3-time All-Star. It's an absolutely devastating injury to the rising career of a young star in this league, and I've honestly been crying all morning just thinking about it. So, it's terrible news.
Yeah, David, you're not alone. Mick, just the repercussions of this, injury, this loss to the league, they're felt immediately. Guys, let's just talk about Game 1. Game 1 was supposed to be the defending champion Warriors, obviously, versus the Cleveland Cavaliers, a team with Colin Spencer on it, a team that people said, this team is the next up. They played that level of competition, the Pelicans, twice before that. They were supposed to be next up, and now, David, is there any word? Has the committee dropped a new Game 1 yet? I know just the Colin news is going to shake up everything, to be honest, this year.
Yeah, this is definitely an unprecedented situation. So there are actually 2 teams that the league has singled out as potential matchups for the defending champion Golden State Warriors to play in the opening matchup. One of those teams is the Alabama Crimson Tide, a play-in team from last season. Unfortunately, lost in the play-in, but they have been a solid team throughout their tenure in the league. And another team that we could see face the Warriors is the new-look UConn Huskies, who have made 2 trades in the past 2 seasons. Traded for Dominic DeRujo last season, turned out to be a 1-year rental. They traded him again for Tanner Gauthier. Now the Huskies are Tanner Gauthier and Troy Spencer. So those are the 2 matchups that we could potentially see for Game 1. No official news on that yet, but we will let the fans know as soon as we know.
Yeah, definitely. That's a great job by the committee. What a short turnaround in an unprecedented event like that. But David, we can't talk about the UConn trade without bringing up all the other transactions that went down. A lot of them, including Colin Spencer, teams that had Colin Spencer on them, and even himself. Do you want to break down some of the trades that went down this offseason just for the fans out there?
Yeah, a lot of old faces and new faces this season. One of the biggest trades that is going to shake up the league is Matthew Spencer. Matthew Bove getting traded to the Houston Rockets from the Miami Heat. That's right, the Season 1 runner-up Miami Heat are no longer. Brady Watt going to the Heat. So the Heat is now Colin Spencer and Brady Watt. Rockets is Matthew Bove and Colin Spencer. Houston making a swing for the fences, wants to make a run for a championship. Another trade involving Brady Watt. The former team of the year, Orlando Magic, trading Dominic DiRuggio away to and actually thing to mention, there's been a few rebrands. Dominic DiRuggio traded from the Orlando Magic to the newly rebranded Kentucky Wildcats, formerly the UCLA Bruins. Brady Watt going back to the Magic. The Magic had an absolutely horrendous year last year, and the owner said, you know what, we got to blow it up. They didn't think they were contending anytime soon, so they wanted to make a big move. So Kentucky lands Dominic DiRuggio and instantly becomes a much better team than before. And then another team making big moves. The Minnesota Timberwolves actually make two trades. One of two teams in the league that's going to have two new players this season. They get Troy Spencer from the Sacramento Kings, sending Colin Spencer over there, and they get Dominic DiRuggio from the UConn Huskies. That is where Tanner Gauthier ended up on UConn from. So the new look Timberwolves is Troy Spencer and Dominic DiRuggio. Kings get Colin, UConn gets Tanner. Hawks and Bucks swap Troy Spencer and Dominic DiRuggio. Those are two Luke Bove teams. Both kind of middling teams. But the Hawks said, you know what, we want the league MVP. We want to try to make a push out of the Eastern Conference. And the Bucks, they like Dominic DiRuggio a lot. They compare him a lot to Giannis Antetokounmpo out of the real NBA. So that's one thing to watch out for. And then we got Kansas Jayhawks trading for former league MVP Drew Gnatic, sending Luke Bove to the Seattle Supersonics with Dominic Alisea. Kansas believes that they can make a run. Drew Gnatic has said multiple times he believes Kansas Jayhawks have a chance to win it all this season. And then the biggest trade in the league, arguably of all time, double blockbuster for the Los Angeles Lakers, trading both Dominic Alisea and Brady Watt. Matthew Bove, Brady Watt to the Pelicans. Spencer. So the new look Los Angeles Lakers, Matthew Bove and Troy Spencer, used to be the Pelicans. They lost one game in their franchise history, only to the Florida State Seminoles. But they said, you know what? Going anywhere. They've only made one play-in appearance, no finals appearances. They thought they needed to go a new direction. So they both, the Lakers, Suns and Pelicans are the trade partners for that trade. But the Lakers get big splashes after being one of the worst teams of all time in this league.
Yeah, I mean, thank you for the insight. Been a busy free agency just like last year. I think even more arguably so. But very unfortunate, Mick. A lot of those teams, obviously, a lot of blockbusters, including Colin Spencer, teams that maybe will not play this year, regardless. That's a huge impact, huge loss for the fans and for the league just to not see that talent on the floor or in the pool. Sorry, guys. I mean, a lot of changes happening with the players, but also with the rules. A couple of new rules. Mick, do you want to break down our new FIBA rim rules? I know, and then we'll send it back over to David for the new playoff format.
All right. So, there was a lot of talk about the goaltending rules in the PBL, and there was some, instances where the ball would be right above the rim, and a rebound, and people wouldn't know if they could go for the ball or not, and they thought it was a big disadvantage for the defense. So this year, the PBL decided to introduce the FIBA rim rules, which, if you do not know, means that if the ball touches the rim on a shot attempt, you are allowed to hit the ball, all right? That means goaltending, that means putback dunks, that means potentially a lot more highlights are coming into the PBL this year. And I just think that's a fantastic move that the PBL administration decided to implement.
Yeah, I mean, I couldn't agree more. I think we're going to see some flashy plays. Definitely a high skill play, high risk, high reward. I don't think we're going to see it too often, but I think the option that play be there is very good. Why not? I love the change. I got to keep things interesting. But David, Obviously had to play in for 2 years now. Had to play in controversy last year. The new playoff format just dropped from the league office. Do you want to break that down for us? How is this going to avoid some of the problems that might have come up in, first say, last year's play-in?
Yeah, absolutely. So a big change coming to the league this season is the new and improved playoff format. So it used to be the top 2 seeds automatically advance to the finals. No longer. It's now just the 1 seed clinches a spot in the finals. Then the 2 through the 6 seed have to play an expanded playoff format. It's going to be 5 games. Each player plays with each other 1 time. Then out of those games, the determining factor is going to be record, and then tiebreaker is going to be point differential. The reason that this had a lot of push this season is because of the controversial play-in last season where Matthew Bove and Dominic DiRuggio ended with the same record and point differential. So we had to, find a new tiebreaker, and that just ended up being regular season record, which, kind of sucked. No one really wanted to see that. You kind of want to see, people argue Dominic DiRuggio had a case to earn a spot in the finals, but just came up short due to, the rules kind of being a little bit too clunky and close together, allowing for opportunities for people to tie. So this new expanded format should allow for more variation. It should allow lower seeds a better opportunity to make the finals, and it should allow for a much more exciting viewing experience for the fans.
Yeah, absolutely. I think that's a great point there. And just who doesn't want to see more playoff basketball? I mean, death of the play-in, bring in the playoffs. This is an exciting change. We get to see more playoff basketball. Later on in the year, the June. In probably June, I'm gonna guess. We've been talking about Colin Spencer. We've talked about all these changes. I just want to say, guys, a lot of great matchups still on the schedule, even with Colin Spencer out. What is your favorite game coming into this season that you're ready to watch? We'll start with you, Mick.
A lot of talk about game of the year last year, being that Detroit Pistons Washington Wizards game, and oh boy, the PBL commission heard that, and they scheduled a rematch for this season. If you are not standing up watching that game, I don't know what you're doing at home, but that is by far my game of the year.
Yeah, I mean, that one you definitely cannot forget. The committee said, why not play it 2 more times? But they said, hang on, let's just do it once for now, and then we'll see. So I mean, that could be a candidate for Game 60, Game of the Year. The special game that gets booked, just based on regular season play. So I mean, if the Wizards can tie this rivalry up, maybe we do see them again in Game 60. So that's an interesting matchup. David, did you have one that stuck out to you this year?
Yeah, one matchup that stood out to me, Celtics versus the Knicks. The Celtics coming into the season have just 1 loss all time, I believe, and it was to the New York Knicks in the play-in tournament season 2. So that will be a big one, and as well as we're seeing the Celtics versus Knicks in real life playoffs, obviously. So that should be an interesting one for fans to watch. Troy Spencer and Drew Ganatic looking to get back a little bit on Matthew Bove and Tanner Gauthier.
Yeah, and that should be a great one. You love the rematch. Could be the birth of a rivalry. Not one yet, obviously, because the Celtics have never beaten the Knicks before, so it's not a rivalry yet. But if the Celtics could pull it out, then maybe it becomes something. But as far as me, I'm gonna go into mine. I'm really excited to watch the new look Los Angeles Lakers tee off against the Indiana Pacers. I mean, this is a great game. Had the swing, big swing, home run swing. Lakers gave up the future to land 2 superstars, 2 of the big 4 riggers, as people would say. And, they're going against the team that went 4-0 last year in the Indiana Pacers. And a lot of teams said that they had a case for the team of the year, So that is a heavy hitter matchup. I think Game of the year, it's definitely up there. It's got to be on your watch list. That one is going to be a slugfest. But yeah, a lot of great matchups. But, again, we go back to Colin Spencer. This episode really is just, the news of Colin Spencer, that big void to fill. Who is going to fill those shoes? Let's go right into it. Big four riggers, Colin Spencer, one of the riggers. That spot is open. Let's go right into our playoff predictions this year. I feel like this could be one of the most competitive seasons in PBL. There's really 4 players that can make a push for that 4th spot. And, maybe there's more room for people to make the playoffs that have never been there before. So, let's get into it, Mick. Let's start with you. Who do you see making the playoffs? Are we still seeing the same people there? Give me your playoffs and final predictions. I want to see, the whole shebang.
So I think the big 3 riggers that remain, they're definitely going to make a push for those playoffs. We see them there every year. I think Dominic DeRujo also still makes a push for the playoffs. The dude's a winner in the regular season, and he loves that playoff competition. But that still leaves 2 spots that I really think there's 3 or 4 players that can snag here with Colin Spencer out. As for my order for those top 4, I think Dom DeRujo is going to sneak out a 1 seed here. I think the big 3 riggers, They love playoff ball. Maybe they accidentally lose some games, to play in the playoffs, to eliminate those other seeds. And I can see Dominic DeRujo, sneaking some out in the regular season, sneaking the 1 seed. As for the, 2 through 4 spots, I'm just going to do the same as last season. I'm going to go Troy, I'm going to go Drew, and then I'm going to go Matt. I think, they're all going to win about the same game, so those 3 spots could really go anywhere. And then the last 2 is where it gets a little tricky. A lot of these guys, a lot of these mid-tier players are looking to, to grow, and they've been absolutely hammering the gym in the off-season, working on their craft. And, it's really tough to choose. But out of those, 4 or 5 players, I think Lucas Rotacco makes it back for his 2nd year in a row. So I think we get that same kind of playoff format that we did last year. But as for that 6th guy, I'm going to say Luke Bowman makes it. The first time ever. He's gotten better every year. I don't see him getting worse this year. I see him getting better again. And I think he beats out the other competition, takes his opportunity that Colin gave him by getting injured, and he's going to make the playoffs. And then as for the finals, can't really give Luke or Lucas the upset there. I think we see the big 3 riggers in Dominic DeRujo. And then really it's just a game of odds here. We'll say the Boston Celtics are going to defeat the Portland Trailblazers in the championship this year. Thank you.
Wow, electric prediction, David. Let's go to you. Same thing for you. Who you see in the playoffs, who you see in the finals. What would you like to see in the finals for our matchup?
I can't speak too much on it because rumor around the league is the big 4 riggers already have the script in for this season. So I don't want to reveal too much. But as for the finals, I've heard a lot of buzz around the Kansas Jayhawks this season. I've heard that Dominic Alisea looks like an absolutely new player after barely playing last season. Season 2, most improved player. Him and Drew Gnatic have some untapped potential. They were in Seattle together, had some good wins, had some rough losses as well. But, another year older for both of them. We'll see what they can do this season. And then on the other side, the new-look Los Angeles Lakers. I wouldn't be surprised to see them make a run and face off against the Kansas Jayhawks in the finals. That would be an absolutely electric matchup between 2 former league MVPs. Matthew Bove has a ring, obviously. Dom A has yet to make the playoffs, so he would be the inexperienced puppy in that scenario. So I think that would be an absolutely electric finals to watch.
Yeah, that's a great one too. I'd love to see the Lakers there. You know, so many players this offseason, we've seen social media, we've seen players in the lab, Tanner Gauthier missed the playoffs last year. He's been in the lab, in the gym, on the courts. Same thing with Dom D after a bad meniscus injury last year. 1 year removed from that now, he's been in the gym. So many players that can make a push. I think for my playoff prediction, I definitely see, the big three riggers go 1, 2, 3. I'm going to say Troy is going to be at the top again. I just feel like he's put on some weight in the offseason. He's a different beast. We could be seeing another repeat MVP from Troy Spencer. So I'm going to go Troy, Drew, Matt for the 1, 2, 3. And then really after that, it's going to be a fight for those last few spots. And, I'm going to say that Dom D, like you were saying, Mick, he finds a way to win. So I'm going to put him right at the 4th seed. Tanner taking to social media and inducting himself into the big four riggers already, that remains to be seen. That's a heavy subject. I think some people would disagree with that, but he seems pretty confident. I'm going to put him at the 5, and then I'm going to take Luke Bove to upset Lucas Furtaco. Within the last 3 games of the season, he's going to knock him off and steal that last playoff spot to make his first playoffs of his career. And then as far as the playoffs goes, I say we see the big 3 riggers make it to the finals. And then, that 4th rigger, I think Dom D steps up. He becomes the 4th rigger and makes it to the finals. And, I think we see a rematch, a revenge series for the Trailblazers against the Boston Celtics. I'm going to go off of Mick's predictions. I think Matt Bove has unfinished business. He said, I couldn't get the Trailblazers a championship in season 2. Portland, this is for you. I'm coming back to win a ring. And, I think they're going to do that. I think they're going to upset the Boston Celtics in 3 games to win season 4 PBL finals. Yeah, and then let's go into our last segment, guys, before, we get out of here. Discussed a lot today. But let's drop some bold predictions for the season going in there. These are some hot takes, don't be shy with them, Let's start it off. David, let's start with you for this one. What's your bold take for this season? Could be anything.
So I actually got 2. So first of all, I'm going to go with Brady Watt wins at least 5 games this season. Yes, that's right, 5. Brady Watt, the worst player in the league, but we have heard that he may be competent this year and not that bad. So he might win a couple games. And then the second one, as I mentioned earlier, I got Dom A. Finals this season. Barely played last season, hasn't had a whole lot of success in his PBL career, but I think this season he's going to tap into that defensive potential, tap into that Draymond Green kind of role, maybe get a little bit of a jump shot, and we could see Dame make a deep playoff push this season.
Yeah, definitely some hot takes.
Definitely
right there.
Definitely a take.
Brady Watt winning 1 game is a hot take, I think. So, winning 5, he's got a high mountain to climb for that one. But Mick, let's send it back over to you. What are your hot takes going in this year?
A take that a lot of people have this year, and so do I, is that this year we're going to see the first ever 21-0 game. It's been close a couple times, and I just feel like this season a team's going to sneak it out. We're just going to dominate or something, and they're going to steal one. But besides that, my other hot take is that Brady Watt, he's going to win the Most Improved Player of the Year award. I think he might have a rocky start, but he's going to catch fire, and as our analyst said, he's going to win a couple games that you don't think he's going to win. And I think that sneaks him with the Most Improved Player award.
Yeah, I mean, well, the bar can't get any lower. So, I mean, the only place to go is up. You know, some people would say.
Yeah.
You know, a lot of high takes I've been thinking about. I think the one I'm gonna choose, I'm gonna say, you know, Clippers. You know, you've been hearing it from the heavens. Clippers, Brady, Clippers, Troy. You know, this team, you know, shocked some people last year, went 2-0. I say team of the year, Los Angeles Clippers this year. You know, it's going to take a lot of wins. They've got some tough games on their schedule. They've got the Pacers. I mean, that is probably their biggest test. They've got, I believe, the Spartans, and then one more game, I believe. But I'd say they win all 3 games, and they play in Game 60. They win and become team of the year. You know, I just realized every single one of them, including Brady Watt of our hot takes. But I mean, that's the kind of player we're talking about in Brady Watt. You know, a lot of confidence.
You never really
to
know.
Improve. Yeah, I mean, the most unpredictable player in the PBL. Yeah. I'd definitely say so.
Yeah.
But yeah, what a great day, David. I'd love to thank you for coming on again, especially on short notice with this crazy, you know, just unfortunate news of Colin Spencer. You know, potentially out for the season. Thanks for coming on, man. It's been a great episode with you. Definitely catch you, you know, sometime on the side. Yeah.
Absolutely, man. It's always a pleasure, man. I love when you guys have me on it. It's awesome.
All right. Well, that will conclude this episode of State of the League. Thank you guys for joining. We will hopefully be seeing you sometime mid-season. All right, guys. Catch you later.